Welcome back to today's Explainer. So, usually when we think of a city or a town, we're picturing the exact same things, right? A standard collection of buildings, some paved roads, a bunch of vehicles, and honestly, for the most part, that is exactly what they are. Across the globe, our urban areas have become highly standardized. If you drop into a typical town, the lifestyle, the layout, it all feels pretty familiar no matter where you are in the world. But what happens when human beings build communities that completely defy that norm? Well, today we are going to look at some of the most unique, rare, and frankly, bizarre cities on the planet. I was absolutely blown away by how these places have adapted to mind-bending extremes, and I think you're going to be too.
Okay, let's dive into this with a number that really sets the stage. There are over 4 million cities and towns worldwide. Just to put that into perspective, you've got around 19,500 cities in the US alone and over 4,000 in India. But out of those 4 million, the vast majority share the exact same urban DNA. Today, though, we are bypassing those ordinary millions and focusing entirely on the absolute outliers. We're talking about cities that exist completely underground, towns with zero cars, communities with no laws, no religion, no money, and even an entire town contained inside a single building.
To make sense of all these anomalies, today's explainer is broken down into three categories. 1. Surviving extremes. 2. Utopias and sanctuaries. And 3. Bizarre economies and architecture. Starting off with Section 1, surviving extreme environments, pushing the limits of human adaptability. I want you to imagine trying to build a thriving, fully functional community when nature itself is actively working against you. How do you adapt? Well, there are some wildly different survival strategies out there. Take Miyakojima, Japan, for example. You can honestly call this place the Mask City. After a massive volcanic eruption back in 2000, toxic gases forced everyone to evacuate. Eventually, the air cleared up enough for residents to come back, but a lingering gas hazard remained. Their solution? To this very day, residents have to wear masks whenever they step outside. Now, compare that to a totally different extreme in Whittier, Alaska. There, the hazard isn't gas, it's freezing, unbearable cold that completely isolates the town in the winter. It's actually only accessible by a single one-lane tunnel. But the solution here is purely architectural. Almost all 250 residents live inside one single building called Bigich Towers. It was originally built by the American military during the Cold War in 1974. Because the brutal winter makes going outside nearly impossible, literally everything the town needs to survive, the post office, the grocery store, the medical clinic, is contained entirely within this one massive structure. It's an entire town living cheek by jowl under a single roof, which completely alters the psychological reality of what community living even means. And adapting to nature doesn't always mean relying on modern concrete buildings. Over in China, it's estimated that millions of people still live in natural caves. And before you start picturing some primitive setup with a campfire, the reality is incredibly diverse. While some cave dwellers absolutely do live in poverty, others are living in pure luxury. We are talking about elaborate, incredibly spacious cave homes equipped with all the modern conveniences you'd expect: flat-screen TVs, stainless steel refrigerators, fast, reliable internet. Actually, the adaptation is so successful that many of these natural caves have been converted into high-end resorts and hotels. It lets visitors experience this really unique blend of ancient shelter mixed with totally modern comfort. But I gotta say, my absolute favorite example of extreme adaptation is Coober Pedy, Australia. If you look at this town from the surface, you won't even see houses. It's just mounds of dry dirt stretching way out into the horizon. But underground, it is a sprawling city. The evolution of this place is fascinating. Step 1, locals took abandoned, hollowed-out opal mines. Step 2, they transformed those empty shafts into luxurious underground homes that often feel like intricate stone palaces. Because they are completely subterranean, they're naturally temperature controlled. So there's no AC needed in the blistering summer and no heaters required in the chilly winter. Then came Step 3. It evolved into a fully fledged city. We're talking underground cinemas, bars, shopping malls, hotels, casinos, and museums, the whole shebang. But the really crucial point here is how the city evolved even further, all thanks to a brilliant human intervention. See, decades ago, Coober Pedy faced a massive traffic and pollution crisis. And as you can imagine, that is especially problematic when you live in a harsh, enclosed underground environment. So the local mayor and government made a really bold move. They transitioned it into an almost entirely car-free, pedestrian-friendly city. If you visit today, you actually have to park outside the city limits. Now, initially, local merchants heavily protested this. They were terrified they'd lose business. But as walking tourists flooded the streets, retail sales actually skyrocketed, and the merchants thrived. Today, it's this zero-pollution paradise with elegant maps detailing walking and cycling times between locations. Local residents now proudly state that without all the traffic and exhaust, their unique underground city is 100 times better to live in today. It really makes you wonder how much happier and healthier our own cities could be if we made a similarly bold move, right? All right, moving on to Section 2, Utopias and Safe Havens, Engineering the Perfect Society.
So we've just seen how cities adapt to escape extreme nature. But what about cities built specifically to escape normal human society? Think about the foundational pillars of a normal city for a second. You've got money, religion, strict laws, private property. Now imagine a place that completely strips all of that away. That is Auroville, a town in Tamil Nadu, India. It was founded in 1968 by Mira Alfasa, who is known as the Mother, under the Sri Aurobindo Society Project. Auroville has no religion, only spirituality, which is anchored by this gorgeous, modern, Golden Globe-like structure right at its center, used for silent meditation. There's no money either. It operates as a completely cashless society where currency is literally only used to import or export goods outside the city. On top of that, there is zero private property. All the buildings and the land are owned by the city's assembly. People don't work for a paycheck here. They work for the community, doing whatever they are most passionate about. And the result? A society with practically zero crime and profound structural equality. The residents actually refer to this place locally as a human experiment. And by a lot of metrics, this ongoing experiment is a massive success. It was originally designed to show that people from absolutely anywhere in the world could come together, transcend their cultural differences, and live harmoniously with high morality. And its dedication to equality and humanity hasn't gone unnoticed on the global stage either. UNESCO has actually praised the city and awarded it 4 separate times for its truly visionary approach to international living. But Auroville definitely isn't the only sanctuary out there with strict defining rules. Let's look at 3 very different utopias. First up, in Florida, we have a place called The Villages. The absolute golden rule there, it is strictly for retirees and the elderly. The result is an incredibly peaceful, golf cart-friendly environment that boasts a virtually zero crime rate. Second, over in Hertfordshire, Britain, we have Spielplatz. This one was founded way back in 1929, and the strict rule here is, well, absolutely no clothes. The residents live completely unclothed to stay deeply connected with nature. But don't mistake this for some primitive lifestyle. They live highly modern lives, maintaining beautiful homes and gardens just, without garments. And finally, we have Umoja in Kenya. The strict rule here? Absolutely no men allowed. This story of Umoja is particularly powerful, and it really speaks to the resilience of community building. This female-dominated village was founded by women who were fleeing terrible abuse, lack of property rights, and child marriage in a deeply male-dominated society. Now, when these women first established Umoja, they faced intense local criticism and massive hurdles just to secure their land, but they completely persevered. Other women seeking refuge from all across the region joined them, and together they achieved something truly remarkable. They took a sanctuary built purely for survival and transformed it into a highly independent, thriving economy. Today, the women of Umoja support themselves completely through animal husbandry, farming, and crafting intricate traditional jewelry. That jewelry is sold all over the world, which grants them ultimate financial independence and safety. And that brings us to Section 3, Bizarre Economies and Architecture, Unconventional Urban Foundations. So stepping away from social utopias for a minute, some cities are defined entirely by incredibly strange industries or extreme architecture. Take Manshiyat Nasser, located near Cairo, Egypt. It is famously known as the garbage city. The entire urban foundation of this town is quite literally built on waste. Garbage is brought in, not just from the massive capital next door, but from various other locations specifically for sorting and recycling. The sheer volume of waste dictates the city's aesthetic, its smell, and its daily rhythm. Literally everywhere you look, the winding streets, the lower levels of houses, the balconies, the flat roofs, it is all covered in imported garbage. It is this extreme, highly specialized local economy that functions entirely as a massive informal recycling hub. And ironically, it arguably manages waste far more efficiently than a lot of modern municipal systems. Now, from a city built on garbage, we move to cities built on, well, replication. We all know China is famously known for manufacturing replicas of consumer products, but they definitely didn't stop there. They have actually replicated entire European cities.
Take Thames Town in China, for example. It's an absolute meticulous copycat of London. They've cloned the cobblestone architecture, the street lamps, the iconic red telephone booths, the parks, and they even named it after the River Thames. And this is not an isolated incident. There is another city in China, Tianducheng, that is a direct, detailed clone of Paris. It even comes complete with its very own towering replica of the Eiffel Tower. It is a fascinating extreme of architectural obsession. It allows locals to live in a cloned European environment, capturing all the romance and aesthetic of the West without ever actually leaving their own country. So we've looked at sprawling cities buried underground, towns wrapped entirely in garbage, sanctuaries functioning without money or clothes, and single-building societies surviving in the freezing cold. I think what this explainer really highlights is the incredible, almost unbelievable adaptability of human beings. We can engineer a society to survive almost any physical hazard and construct communities around the most radical social concepts imaginable. Which leaves us with one final, fascinating thought to reflect on today. Knowing what is actually possible out there, if you could build your own perfect urban utopia from scratch, what would your rules be? Thanks for exploring these incredible places with me on today's Explainer. Keep questioning the world around you, and I'll catch you next time.